Do you think it's more important to have a presence about the forest or about the trees? This edition of Lessons Learned comes from a podcast that I've recently been listening to by Ben Greenfield Fitness. And if you don't listen to his podcast, you might. I don't listen to every word. I do a lot of fast forwarding, but recently I was paying attention to a podcast that had nothing to do with this particular Lessons Learned about caffeine and colonics and the relationship of our brain to our biodiome, etc. And one of the points that Ben had in discussing nutrition with his guest speaker as well was that we often get in touch with little things like I want to only eat this or I want to avoid this, and we miss the forest for the trees. By concentrating on the trees, we forget to include our bigger picture. Are we focusing, for example, on everyday meals or overall diet? Now, for those of you who know me, I don't really believe in using the word diet, but meal plan. Americans have been on a diet for the last couple centuries, and we've gained, I think, 10 pounds. What do the first three letters spell, right? So this is not a lessons learned about putting stuff into our mouth at all. It's about what comes out of our brain instead. And by listening to this podcast and focusing on big things and little things, I started to think that there's a time for, like January and June, looking at big picture of what we want and periodically checking in with our big picture with small minutia, if you will, or the small details of what we need to do to accomplish our big goal. Then I started thinking, do we invest or do we trade? And in the world of changing markets, we can be invested in something. For example, I'm going to buy stock in Apple or in electricity companies or in communications or in coffee, whatever it will be, and not check every day what that stock is doing because I'm invested in this company, its message, its direction, and I have faith that in the long run, all markets in most years will go up because I'm invested for my research, for my backing, for my commitment, right? But if I'm trading, that's a different mentality. I'm going to buy in, and as soon as I need to, I'm going to sell, and I'm going to sell out, and I'm going to look for the next opportunity. I hope you're following me metaphorically as well as in the stock market, and I'm going to grab on that next opportunity, and the moment that something doesn't go exactly what I'm thinking, I drop that, and I've seen this with people learning guitar, taking another language, becoming a presenter, starting to teach a new class, taking up personal training, and all of a sudden, because things might not go right in the small little minutia picture, they drop the trading because they're not really invested. When we really are invested, we find the way. We don't find an excuse, and we retweak our little minutia of game plan periodically because we have to have specific goals. For example, some people say to me, Lawrence, I want to have more people follow me, I want to have more social media, and I want to have a bigger commitment to clients, right? But I'm really shy about being on social media. Well, I make that so easy in the people I mentor. I have the Anatomy of a Post podcast, and it's 7 things to do. Bring your personality, follow my 7 things, and ka-ching, really. But if you look at the big picture, committed I am, invested I am to sharing my message, the people will follow. The people who are like-minded, and the people who are not will be your nemesis, perhaps, and it's okay. Those people, if we're aware of them, keep us on our toes. Another way to think about this forest and trees analogy is sort of what's happening in terms of precipitation. Do we focus on, as wind picks up right now, do we focus on the climate or do we focus on the weather? Climate in Puerto Rico or Mykonos or Manhattan is pretty much consistent start to finish for a whole calendar year. We have seasons or not, we have amounts of precipitation averages or not, and we have an overall guiding force of what characterizes our climate. Now, I can wake up and say, well, the weather is this, so I can do this today, and the weather is this, and so we'll talk about weather if we don't know what to talk about in almost any culture, right? It's kind of fascinating. But when we talk about weather, it's really blinders, and it's very limited, and it's very narrow in terms of overall growth mindset, I think. If we open up our mind and consider climate, then we're looking at how invested we are, or the entire forest. And ultimately, this lessons learned, which started about coffee and colonics and our biodiome and brain cells and intermittent fasting, led me to realize that when we make the decisions for what we want to do in this life, we have to have both big, wide lenses and short lenses. I think it's more important to have big, wide lenses and look at the big picture. However, so many times with mentoring, in addition to helping people getting out of their own way, my mastermind groups really help people focus on being able to say at the end of a day, today I majored in majors, I didn't major in minors. Why? Because in the umbrella, global scheme of things, I'd like to say that I stand and work and believe and I'm committed under my umbrella of climate and under my umbrella of being invested in what I'm drawn to and what's drawn to me, and overall in my forest, for that metaphor, if you will. So with love in my heart and a firm commitment to continue to spread wellness without walls, I'm Lawrence, expressing my gratitude to you for listening to my lessons learned thus far. And I conclude this lessons learned by asking you, in what things do you focus and refocus and bring yourself back to the bigger picture to stay invested? Focus on climate, not ever-changing weather, and majoring in majors.